The Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan's plan to be the new Margaret Thatcher and win the hearts of the Tory right lasted about 11 minutes. After it was revealed, she plans to allow pupils to choose their own pronouns and change gender at school if parents give their consent. She's obviously already relinquished any future leadership ambitions. Tory backbenchers will hate this. Go woke, no vote. How can this government, barely recognisable as Conservative these days, consider a plan in which teachers now have to ask pupils whether they're a boy or a girl that day? It's confusing and potentially damaging to those children involved, who may come to regret this later in life. And it's disruptive to the other kids who controversially don't think they were born in the wrong body. Now, I take the point about parental consent, and that is an important step. Children unilaterally changing their gender without mum and dad knowing is truly abhorrent. But I don't see this as much of a solution. It will be meat and drink to teachers like that nut job at an East Sussex school who called 2 pupils a disgrace for questioning whether one of the girls should be allowed to call herself a cat. Let me give you a sense of how mad this is going. The Telegraph report that some secondary schools in England have agreed to affirm children's demands to be recognised not just as cats, but also horses and, wait for it, dinosaurs. That's right, little Jimmy isn't a boy anymore. He's a triceratops, folks. Who needs Jurassic Park when you've got your local comprehensive? If an adult chooses to identify by a different gender, good luck to them. As a courtesy, I would always respect a grown adult's pronouns or choice of name. It's a free country. I've got close friends who have been on that important and joyous journey. But I've got 2 red lines. First of all, women's hard-won sex-based rights. The integrity of female sport, female-only changing rooms, female-only prisons and female-only rape crisis centres, if that's not too much to ask. And my other red line is children, who can so easily be caught up in the latest fashion craze, which I believe at the moment is transgenderism. It's been reported that cases of anorexia among teenage girls are in decline. Great news, but only to be replaced by the toxic myth that somehow you're in the wrong body or even the wrong species. One social contagion replaced by another. Both are rooted in the belief that if you change your body, somehow you'll be able to love yourself. As the top author Lionel Shriver puts it, both diagnoses have significant intersections with autism, anxiety and depression, making patients susceptible to a tangible seeming solution to a generalised discontent. Both populations mistake self-annihilation for a route to enlightenment and rebirth. So why does all of this matter? Well, because if you're an adult and you transition, that's a wonderful thing. But if it's who you are, of course you go for it. Children are different. Children are impressionable. They're vulnerable to brainwashing and grooming. And it's just too early for a child to make a decision like that, particularly given that if schools became an environment where you can change your gender, let me tell you that medieval chest-flattening devices to stop your breasts growing, puberty blockers to stop you becoming a reproductive adult, and the butchery of removing sex organs will inevitably follow. This new policy would allow schools to be the breeding ground for interventions that a whole generation of children may come to regret. I think it's bloody simple. You wait till you're 18. Currently, 1,000 parents are considering suing the NHS Tavistock Centre for irreversible damage to their children. And I suspect that's the tip of the iceberg. And let's not forget the travesty of children and young people who are so-called gender non-conforming, in other words, being a camp boy or a tomboy girl, who would likely go on to be gay or lesbian. They are instead, under the rules of this crazy new religion, being placed on a path to change their sex. This is why so many gay people and so many women reject the new pride flag, because it represents not just deep misogyny with the erasing of women, but homophobia too, with a message to lesbians, for example, that if you aren't attracted to a fully intact biological male who calls himself female, you're a bigot. What a time to be alive. Under these latest plans, schools will be an incubator for this crazy ideology, and we, the taxpayers, will be paying for it. Now, as I've said before, the case for homeschooling grows stronger by the day. In the end, schools should be politics-free and a safe space for children to be just that, children. The bottom line is they shouldn't be asked what sex they are today or tomorrow, or if they're rabbits or a dinosaur or a hedgehog or something. They are there at school to learn reading, writing and arithmetic, not that they may be one of 100 genders. Is it too much to ask that we let kids be kids? It's time to end the war on gender, and it starts in the classroom.